This is an episode all about matchmaking with camels. In this episode, you're going to learn all about how to find a camel that's actually a good match for you, because not all camels are going to be a good match for you. Stay tuned to listen more. Hey, my name's Tara Lee, and I'm from Camel Channel, and you are obviously listening to the Camel Channel podcast. And I'm thrilled to be here today to talk to you about how to match yourself up with a camel. This is I just had this image run through my head of a dating site for people and camels. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's an app that's needed in this world. So I'm probably not going to do it, but someone else certainly can. Not all camels are going to be a good match for you, and this is probably where a really key element where people get it wrong. They see a camel for sale, they buy the camel for sale sometimes even without meeting them, or meeting them just going, yep, it's a camel, I'll take it. Then there can be roadblocks in the way, like there can be a personality clash, and it's a thing. You can actually clash with camels and their personality and your personality. And sometimes camels also have preferences on their types of people that they like. My experience has been that some camels prefer women over men or men over women, and it all is a matter of sorting out which is best for you and obviously the camel involved. Now, I understand that camels can be hard to come by. Especially in places like the United States. It's like, there's a camel for sale, well, must buy it. I get that. But to have a long-term, lasting, successful friendship, relationship, and bond with a camel, you really do need to look at some ideas around, is this camel a good match for you? Along those lines, you've got to be looking at, well, what am I going to utilize this camel for? Is it simply for a pet, or is it for milking, or is it for riding, or is it for a commercial operation? There's lots of things to consider when matching yourself with a camel, and of also matching that camel to any activity that you might want to do with the camel. But ultimately it comes down to how much you actually like the camel. It's going to be much easier to work with a camel that wants to work with you, and you're not rubbing up against each other like chalk and cheese. And it's going to be much easier to get along with a camel that wants to work too and is a good fit for that kind of work. Not all camels are good working camels, and that can come down to conformation, like as in their body structure, their stamina, all sorts of things, their genetics, so many different things. So there's definitely a practical note to matching yourself with a camel, and then there's more of kind of like an alternative approach to, well, am I going to get along with this camel? I suggest you just think of owning a camel. Well, first of all, think of it as a long-term thing, because it is a long time. Camels can live domestically for up to 50 years, and that's a long time to spend with a certain somebody, in this case a camel. So you need to think, well, am I going to get along with this camel long term, or are we just going to face challenge after challenge after challenge, and it's just going to be chalk and cheese the whole time? I've experienced this with camels myself. I mean, I'm a camel lover. I generally love all camels. Of course I do. I mean, that's why I do what I do. But on an ownership level and on a level of something that I want to work with, I'm not going to get along with all the camels. Sure, I can educate them and I can train them and I can teach them to do the things, but I am personally looking for that strong bond, that strong trust that I can develop with a camel, because that is where your best results come from. So for example, like in a training setting, I might be helping another camel owner with their camel, and I can give them all the practical things to do and how to connect and how to bond and how to train, and I can even be demonstrating these things on the camels, and those things are working, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to have that strong bond and connection with that camel like the owner does and like the owner wants. And I've even experienced this in my own herd of camels, is some of them I'm like, you know what? It's been like 3 years and we're still not getting along. I think we have to end this relationship. And it's not like a disposal thing, like, oh, let's just get rid of the camel. It's not that at all, because I don't do that to start with. And, you know, I would obviously find the best home and the best, not even the best home, that's even incorrect when I say that. I'd find the best suited person where I know that that's going to be a great working relationship, a great companionship for that camel and that person. I don't just sell camels. I make sure that they're a personality match. I make sure that they're going to get along on a long-term basis, because that is what successful camel ownership is based off. And, you know, many out you might be thinking, well, you know, I'm just here for practical lessons and all that sort of stuff. Well, this kind of is, because even in a milking setting, I've seen this sort of thing before. Some camels aren't suited for milking. They don't have the personality for it, and they don't have the genetics for it. And it's plain and simple. And of course, like if you're the main milker in this circumstance, then you're going to want to get along with these camels. Now, in saying all that, a lot of this can come back to ego. Us humans, we have this thing, it's called an ego. We all have it, we all love it, and we all loathe it. You know, it sometimes serves us and it sometimes does not serve us. When working with camels and you're trying to get them, for lack of a better word, I sort of like to use ask them to do things and they're not doing the things, the human ego can get in the way, and it's like, well, I'm going to win over this animal. It's like a caveman or cave people days thing, like, well, I'm determined, I'm going to get this animal to do what I'm doing because this all depends on my survival. Like, it's just human nature. I get it. But if your ego gets too involved with camels, that's when you're going to rub up against them like chalk and cheese. It's going to be on, like, not necessarily a fight, but it's going to be like camels will get scared because they're feeling all this pressure and this ego, and it's coming out from the person in a way that the camel is not understanding, and then the fear kicks in and the camel just melts down and in quotes gets stubborn, which is basically their mechanism for self-protection. So sometimes you could have made a good camel choice, except you didn't allow yourself to tap into that heart center or that connection or that strong bond and trusting relationship, and you let your ego get involved. I have seen this time and time again, and I'm putting my hand up here because I have done this, and I always sort of say to myself when I'm working with myself, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because things can either go really, really great or really, really badly depending on my thoughts and feelings and my actions and reactions whilst I'm around my camels. That is a really big key takeaway. So a lot, like I have a couple of camels, in my herd that I would say long term that we don't have a long lasting relationship, and it's probably not going to work out long term, you know. But that being said, I can still go in and I can still work with them. I can still build that trust and still build that bond because my ego is not getting involved. You know, like a lot of the times our strong reactions to any animal can be out from our lack of understanding. You know, like I've seen this before in a training session, and this camel was walking behind its owner, and this camel kept coming up close and was being real cheeky and tried to bite the owner in front of it. And you could see the owner getting frustrated, and also a horse person. And the owner's like, well, should I just slap it on the nose like a horse? And I'm like, well, no, let's just stop. Let's just take a breath, because at this point, and this camel was doing this biting from a place of nervousness and from fear, and that can happen, obviously. Like, it just didn't know what it was doing. It was a bit confused. It's like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm just going to like defense. And this person's like, yes, should I slap it? I'm like, no, because if you slap that camel on the nose, you are literally giving it the same reason to bite again. because that camel's already biting out of fear because it doesn't know what it's doing. It's a little bit confused. Like the owner was learning, the camel was learning. There was just confusion. So if you slap that camel, it's going to go, well, oh, okay, so I do have something to fear here. So your job always as a camel handler is to reduce that fear and not escalate it, like not give the camel reasons to fear you, basically, or fear the circumstances. So there's lots of variables when it comes to matching yourself with a camel. So I'm just going to break it down a little bit more on a practical note so that you have something to work towards. And before I do that, I do want to tell a bit of a story. So in the past, when I've sold camels, I'll often have the camels in the yard that are for sale. And, I only ever sold camels when people signed up for a camel course, level 1 camel course, in person. And obviously there was camels involved as well, the sale of a camel. I just don't believe in selling camels without people knowing what they're doing with the camels. It's very important to me long term, and obviously to the camel long term. So the way that I actually navigated this whole, rather than people are like, oh, can you choose me a camel? I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to, and all the things. And I'm just like, I think there's a better way to do this. Like, yeah, sure, I could try to choose you a camel, but I'm not you. You ultimately long term have to choose a camel that you like and that you're willing to work with. And the human thing is like, well, if a human has made that choice for themselves, then there's no blame game either. It's not like, well, that person chose the wrong camel for me. It's like, well, you chose that camel. And the question to you is, are you going to stick with this camel? Do you have that stickability? And I find that a much successful way of matching people with camels. So I often have the camels in a yard, and their new potential owners are on the outskirts of a yard. So not even in the yard, not touching the camel, not being just on the outskirts, just hanging on the fence sort of thing. And I will tell these potential new camel owners, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go away for about, 15 minutes. And I want you to just get an experience here, like feel into which camel you might feel is best suited to you upon personality, upon how they approach you, upon how they don't approach you, upon your feelings alone. We're not looking at looks because, I've done the confirmation checks there. This is purely on feeling. What do you feel about these camels in these yards? So I would go away and then I'd come back a little while later and they have chosen their camels, and you can see the certainty on these people's faces. They're like, that is my camel, and they'll start giving me all the reasons why. I'm like, I don't need to know the reasons why. That what matters is that you feel connected to this camel, because if you're connected to this camel and you've chosen this camel, you're going to have the stickability to work with this camel when times get tough, when shit happens. It's gonna happen. It happens in training, it happens as they get older, all the things. It's going to happen. You're going to have the stickability to do that. So I have found that's a really great way of getting a good match for people and their camels. So going back to shortlisting, really some practical things you can do to match yourself to a camel. First of all, don't rush into it. Like, you might have your name on a wait list and all this sort of thing, and if you're just having a camel for weed control, it's kind of, and you're not going to be around it much, well, this is probably an inappropriate episode to listen to, for practicality wise. But if you want a pet camel and you want to work with it long term, whether that be commercially or for personal uses, I would suggest the first thing is to really tap into, one, who you are as a person. What is your personality like? Are you a reactor? Are you very go-hung, or are you more sort of quiet and calm, And those are the things. Sometimes it's the opposites that attract with camels. So someone can be really highly strung as a person, and the kind of camel they need is a quieter camel, is one that's really grounded and calm. Because if you match a highly strung person with a highly strung camel, it's kind of going to be a disaster. That being said, any highly strung person can obviously create new habits around how they manage themselves around camels. I mean, every camel that I work with in my herd, like I'm not a different person with each camel, but I have different demeanors with, like, I know, okay, well, that camel needs that kind of energy and that camel needs that kind of energy when I'm around it. Like, it's just a thing that I've learned to do and to manage and control quite well over time and over working with camels. So you've got to just have that personality match. You don't. And the way that I look at it too is, especially with animal stuff, like I really love working with animals that challenge me. And you've got to ask yourself that question too, like, am I in a position to be challenged? Do I have the emotional, mental fortitude for this challenge? Or do I want a camel that's had a little bit of basic training or a lot of basic training or a lot of training so that I can learn from the camel? Those are the things that you need to determine moving forward. That being said, a really strong bond can be created when there's challenges, because when challenges arise, you literally have to work together as a team to achieve the outcome that you're both you and the camel are trying to achieve. And it's something that you just can't replace anywhere else, even with a more highly trained camel. So you're looking at obviously your personality, the camel's personality, the stickability that you're going to have, the challenges that you might face, and are you prepared for those sort of challenges? So overall, you're looking for a match that feels good to you. It's all about the feelings here. Camel channel, if you're hanging around for a bit, how I'm very connected with my camels if you've been watching my videos and stuff, and that is the experience I would love for everybody to have. And if you're listening here, then obviously that's something you're interested to have. You want to make sure you give yourself a good match for your camel or your future camels in the future. So, shop around a little bit, in quotes, shop around. Don't take the first camel that comes into your experience unless you're a very highly intuitive person and you're really tapped into who you are as a person. And you're like, no, that's a thing. And I in the past, I haven't been so much like that, but now I've sort of spiritually evolved and grown myself a little bit more. Like I can go into a situation and go, this is the right situation for me, or this is the right animal for me, or, all the things. Rather than just go, for practicality reasons, I'll take it. Not so helpful. So a lot of this just comes back to knowing who you are as a person. Because knowing who you are will set you up for success with your camel training, with your caring of your camels, with any adventure that you plan with your camels. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. So I hope you found this podcast episode really helpful in one way or another. And always remember that the reason that I'm here is to help you achieve your wildest camel dreams and goals, whether that be big or small or in between those things. Like, it's important for me that you achieve your camel dreams and goals. And it doesn't matter to me how far along you are down that track, or how far, this is your first episode you're listening to ever about camels, and because it's just an idea at this time. But I want you to know that all these things are possible for you. And this is exactly why I do these podcast episodes, is to support you in that and to keep saying to you, go ahead and achieve those camel dreams and goals. It is all possible if you have the stamina to be able to make that possible. I've done some pretty wild and crazy things in my journey with camels, and with that came more confidence, and with that confidence came like, I can teach other people how to do this. So I'm exactly here for that. So again, I hope you got lots of value from this, and you can follow me on all the socials, Camel Channel with Tara Lee. I think also I'm on TikTok at the moment. Don't tell anybody, because I swore I would never be one of those people that went on TikTok and especially danced on TikTok. That being said, I've not danced on TikTok yet, but I'm planning something in the near future. And make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening, because I'd love for you to keep again, like whether it's just a seed at the moment to have a camel seed idea, or you're definitely like, no, I'm in this, already have camels and I'm willing to put in the effort. I want to keep teaching you about these sorts of things. So thank you for listening, and please go over to my website, camelchannel.com, and get started with camels and download my free ebook, Introduction to Camels. It's the best way I can help you right now to get started or advance on your camel knowledge. And I'd love to see you over there and in our small little, big but mighty bit big camel community. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.